Hey, I'm David G, and good morning from Berlin-Brandenburg International Airport, where I'll be headed over to London and then on down to Barcelona on British Airways. I'll be flying both flights in economy class and checking out the lounges along the way. In fact, I'm in one right now. But my flight will be boarding soon, and I want to just grab one more coffee from the lounge before I leave, so let's get going. Honestly, the Tempelhof lounge over here at Berlin-Brandenburg is not that great, but it's what you get access to when flying One World. The coffee is pretty alright though. Lovatse. My first flight will be aboard an A320 on British Airways 981, and then the second flight down to Barcelona from London Heathrow will be, I believe it's flight number 484 on an A321neo. And like most of the Airbus A320, A321 family, it's mostly 3-3 seating, but I was actually able to snag some seats in the 2-2 row, so it'll be cool to see what it's like sitting there, and also if it's worth going all the way to the back of the plane, because it's all the way back in row 26. But without further ado, British Airways economy class. What is it like these days? Let's go check it out. But one really nice thing about the Tempelhof lounge is that it's got its own private border control line. And I made it from the lounge to my gate in under 5 minutes. Just about to board here. Just a little bit of a line on the jet bridge. But boarding didn't take long at all. Good morning.
Good morning.
And for this flight, I had selected seat 7F.
Cabin crew, that's boarding complete. Boarding complete. With any ground staff, please leave the aircraft.
And the aircraft is pretty empty, I have to say. But then again, who would want to take a 6:25 a.m. flight if they didn't have to? Looks like we're about to push back soon, though they are having to negotiate a little bit with air traffic control, but we should be on our way pretty soon and see how this flight is. I did notice that they have an extensive menu of food for sale in economy, or Euro travelers they call it, so let's see what they're willing to give out for free. And since I am technically flying between 2 EU countries via a non-EU country, I'll have to go through border control a few different times, so let's see if that's worth it too. That's definitely a downside to flying BA on routes that go between EU countries. But on the particular flights I'm flying today, I got a really good deal, 7,500 Alaska miles, plus some taxes and fees, so not very much at all. But you know, if I was comparing to a low-cost carrier like Ryanair or even EasyJet, I would definitely choose BA over them, even if it was, say, $50 more.
Opening the doors automatically inflates the evacuation slides, and high heel shoes must be taken off as they may tear the slide.
And we're now pushing back, and we should be taking off in just a few minutes. I do typically fly with these earplugs in, not sponsored or anything, I'm just prone to airplane ear. But if you have an issue with airplane ear too, I do recommend trying out earplugs. They've helped me. But yeah, we'll be off here in just a few minutes, so stay tuned for the takeoff. And we're taking off.
Alright, good morning and welcome on board this British Airways flight to London Heathrow. My name is Julie Reynolds, and it really is my pleasure to be your in-flight manager on board this flight today. On the main suite today, and I hope you can now sit back, relax, and enjoy this short flight to London Heathrow's Terminal 5.
Now that the seatbelt sign's been turned off, I've got time to go check out the bathroom real quick. It's not the most spacious bathroom in the aircraft, but it's partially just because we're flying in an A320 and it's a small body plane. But there's the proper amenities in this bathroom. You've got your soap, a nice deodorizer, and a coat rack if you gotta hang a coat somewhere. And though tight, it is kept clean. So yeah, one of the better airplane bathrooms I've seen in economy flying around in Europe, to be honest. So we're now cruising at about 11,000 meters. Just about an hour left in the flight. The flight itself is just a short hop, so I think in total the flight time did end up being about about 1 hour and 25 minutes. That's what happens when you wake up at 3 a.m. But everything is very predictable with BA. It's nothing like the Ryanair flight I took a few months ago. And then in terms of snacks and drinks, sitting in Euro Traveler or economy, they just give you a small bottle of water and then a few little snacks. They were nice enough to give me like 3 snacks instead of 1 without me even asking. And the flight attendants in general seem quite professional and kind of like they're one of the more experienced cabin crews BA has. I'm just speculating here, I mean I didn't ask them, but it does seem that way. Especially based on some of the transatlantic flights I've had with BA where they weren't quite as up to snuff, especially in business class. But that's another story for another time. So there are definitely other non-low-cost carrier options for flying around in Europe, but BA is pretty solid, and when you get a really low price on one of their tickets, it could be worth it in my opinion. And then the in-flight menu definitely has some options if you're really hungry, but like on basically any other airline, it's quite expensive compared to what I'd want to pay for food. So I'll definitely be sticking to eating in the lounges in between my flights today. And then there is Wi-Fi available for purchase on this flight, but there's no free Wi-Fi available, and it's not yet a mainstream thing over in Europe. I do hope to see more legacy European carriers start offering free Wi-Fi on their flights in the near future, but for the time being, that's not really a thing. But if you really just had to connect for whatever reason, you could pay, and it seems as though their Wi-Fi does work. And I've seen a lot of videos as of late complaining about how terrible BA is lately. To be honest, flying economy class at least, that's not really the case at all. In fact, on boarding, it was clear this is the cleanest flight I've ever been on that was operated by BA. And the seat is roomy enough that I'm going to just pull out my laptop and do a little bit of work here. I was able to get about 20 minutes of work done on this flight, which is really not bad considering the entire flight time was about 1 hour 25, and I'm usually not able to do any work during ascent per descent. And with around about 30 minutes left in flight, we just started ascent, so I've popped my earplugs back in, and we should be at Heathrow in no time. And based on many conversations with fellow travelers over the year, I've come to the realization that a lot of people do deal with airplane ear, but it's just not that talked about. I mean, the earplugs are not the only thing I use. I always make sure to have adequate water with me at all times, even if I'm flying like a low-cost carrier that doesn't give out free water, and then I like to carry around some cough drops, usually Ricola. But every once in a while, airplane ear does still get me, and that can be a huge setback when you're traveling. Like, I really do everything I can to avoid it, so I'm super interested to hear if you all have any other tips. And I do hope my tips helped you too if you're dealing with airplane ear. As we inch closer to London, the airspace is super busy. You can see all the morning flights leaving their mark. Unfortunately, since there's low cloud cover over here in London, you don't get any views of the city today. But it is still kind of nice to watch these long white blankets of clouds and the air traffic over them. Oh my god, London Heathrow is busy this morning. And they seem to have had us in a holding position for a good 10, maybe 15 minutes, but now we're set to land and we should be on the ground in less than 10 minutes. I have only one complaint about this flight, and it's that they do not offer free coffee on BA, and they really should bring that back. Other than that, this has been one of the better intra-Euro flights that I've taken in quite a while. But let's see about that flight from Heathrow down to Barcelona and see if this wasn't just a one-off thing. And after what ended up feeling like quite a long time circling around Heathrow, we made our landing.
A very warm welcome to London Heathrow's Terminal 5. The local time here, 7 in the morning. On behalf of myself, British Airways, the captain and all the crew, we do hope you've enjoyed your flight with us this morning, and we do look forward to welcoming you back again very, very soon. Thank you, and a very good morning to you all.
Upon landing, no gates were open, so we had to take a shuttle bus to get over to the terminal, which took quite a while. But in my experience, this is pretty common at Heathrow during busy travel times. Fortunately, even though both of my flights are arriving to and departing from Terminal 5, I still have to go through security once, which is a bit of a hassle at Heathrow. These lines are a little bit long, so I'm going to see if I can't find the shortest one at least. But the lines didn't end up taking all that much time, and I was through security in about 10 minutes. British Airways does have a few lounges to choose from in Terminal 5, but after seeing a huge line in front of the British Airways North Lounge, I chose the South Lounge because I know it's got a little bit more space. It's neither the best lounge nor the worst lounge at Heathrow, but it did the trick. They've got pretty good shower facilities that usually don't have a long wait, and the food and drink is pretty solid. During peak times, this lounge does get pretty packed though, and there's not really a dedicated place that's good for working or trying to take a nap. I was able to access the lounge using my One World Sapphire status, but if you don't hold One World status, there's the Club Aspire downstairs that takes priority pass. But it seems to kind of always happen to me. I spent a good 3 hours in the lounge and then it was time for boarding. Hi. Well, I'm now aboard flight number 2 on down to Barcelona. They've finished up boarding and we should be pushing back, going over to the runway pretty soon. This is the A321neo. As you can see, I'm sitting in a row with only 2 seats, but there is actually, in fact, the flight attendant's jump seat next to me. And it's just kind of cramped over here, so let's see how this flight is.
Cabin doors to automatic and cross-check.
So after a long, maybe 15-minute taxi out to the runway, we finally took off. Now we're about 30 minutes into the flight and we've reached altitude. The flight attendants were really quick to go around with the free water and snacks. And they had the same menu items as the first flight, but I just wasn't interested. And now there's a good hour, 20 minutes, hour, 25 minutes left in the flight. And it wasn't just the first impression, these seats are kind of cramped. I'm not talking about Ryanair cramped or anything, but there's a bit of crampiness going on. And for takeoff and landing, the flight attendant also has to sit next to you. But for a short hop of around 2 hours, it's pretty okay. But in the end, your onboard experience is economy. And while having access to the lounges is a pretty nice touch, economy class can only go so far, short haul or long haul. So I'll go try and get a glimpse of the bathroom for you, and on the way I'll try to give you a few views out of one of the windows if I can. Let's see. But with this flight being nearly full, I wasn't able to find any free window seat to sit in for a minute. And as it turns out, the A320 and the A321neos flown by British Airways have identical bathrooms in the back. So there's really nothing new to show you here. Although I have to point out that this one is a little bit less clean than the first one, but then again, this flight is almost full and the first flight was about half empty. And it's not in terrible condition or anything. So with just about 30 minutes of flight time left, we're about to start our descent. And overall, I would say these BA flights have been decent. They've been enjoyable enough for economy flights, and I hope this video has helped you get an idea of if you'd like to fly BA in economy on short-haul European flights too. And if you've got any questions or comments you want to share, definitely drop a comment with those. And if you want to compare flying a legacy carrier in economy in Europe like this with flying a low-cost carrier like Ryanair, I've got another Ryanair flight review that might be fun to watch for you next. And in case you're wondering, it did not take that long to re-enter the EU in Barcelona. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like if you did like it, and subscribe for more videos.